The king had never felt so invisible. LeBron James stood in front of a cracked mirror, staring at a version of himself that the world would never recognize. His signature headband and perfectly groomed beard had been replaced by a scruffy wig, unevenly trimmed facial hair, and deep lines etched into his face by a skilled makeup artist. His clothes, worn sneakers, a frayed hoodie, and baggy, stained jeans, looked like they had seen better decades. Even his posture, usually exuding confidence and power, was slumped, making him appear smaller despite his towering frame. For years he had been cheered by millions, his name synonymous with greatness on and off the court. But tonight, he wasn't LeBron James, the king of basketball. He was just another man who had fallen on hard times. As he adjusted his wig one last time, his fingers trembling slightly, a single question echoed in his mind. What happens when the man who has everything becomes someone with nothing? He drew a deep breath and muttered, "Let's find out." LeBron turned toward the door, leaving the comforting warmth of his home for the cold, indifferent world outside. Tonight, he was stepping into an unfamiliar arena, the court of humanity, where the true nature of kindness and judgment would be revealed. The idea had come to him during a casual conversation with friends about fame and the way it influenced how people treated him. LeBron had always been curious. What if the name, the money, and the accolades were stripped away? What if he was just another face in the crowd? Would people show him kindness or cast him aside like he didn't matter? This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision. It was a deliberate experiment, one he had mulled over for weeks. The goal wasn't to expose or shame anyone, but to see the world through a lens that fame had long since taken from him. He meticulously planned every detail. He visited thrift stores in the less affluent parts of the city, combing through racks of used clothing until he found a tattered hoodie, baggy jeans with fraying seams, and sneakers whose soles were almost worn through. A professional makeup artist on his team added scars, darkened his skin tone slightly, and drew fine lines to age his face. Even LeBron had to admit the transformation was startling. The destination was chosen carefully. The Ivy Crest, one of Los Angeles' most exclusive restaurants, was known for its high-profile clientele and impeccable service, but only if you looked the part. LeBron knew this would be the perfect stage for his experiment. "Are you sure about this, man?" one of his assistants asked as they finalized the disguise. "People can be harsh." "I know," LeBron replied, his voice steady. "That's the point." As the car pulled up a few blocks from the restaurant, he took a moment to collect himself. Looking out the window, he saw people walking by, heads down, rushing through their evening routines. None of them glanced his way. For the first time in years, he felt invisible, and it was both liberating and unsettling. "Drop me here," he said to his driver, who looked back at him with a mix of concern and curiosity. Stepping out onto the sidewalk, LeBron adjusted his hoodie and started walking toward the glowing sign of the Ivy Crest. His heart pounded in a way it hadn't since his rookie days in the NBA. This wasn't about winning a game or breaking a record. This was about witnessing the truth of human behavior, raw and unfiltered. As he approached the restaurant, he took one last deep breath. "Let's see how they play," he whispered to himself and pushed open the heavy glass doors. The experiment had begun. The heavy doors of the Ivy Crest swung open, and LeBron stepped inside. The warm glow of chandeliers lit the meticulously arranged tables, and the soft hum of conversation mingled with the occasional clinking of glasses. The scent of truffle oil and freshly baked bread wafted through the air. LeBron's entrance caused a ripple, subtle yet undeniable. Patrons glanced up from their meals, their expressions briefly registering confusion or disdain before returning to their conversations. The contrast was stark. An elegant room filled with designer suits and sparkling jewelry, and a man in a ragged hoodie with sneakers that scuffed the pristine hardwood floor. A hostess, dressed in a sleek black uniform, approached him. Her smile was practiced but faltered as she took in his appearance. "Can I help you?" she asked, her tone polite but edged with hesitation. Yes, LeBron replied softly, keeping his voice steady but subdued. I'd like a table for one. The hostess's eyes flickered to the manager near the bar who was already watching the exchange closely. Without checking the reservation book, she offered an apologetic smile. I'm sorry, but we're fully booked tonight, she said quickly. LeBron's gaze shifted subtly to the row of empty tables near the back, then back to her. He didn't argue, didn't challenge her words. Instead, he simply nodded, as if accepting her decision, and stood there, waiting. The silence stretched, awkward and heavy. Across the room, a young server named Maya noticed the interaction. She had only been working at the Ivy Crest for a few months, saving every penny for culinary school. Something about the man's demeanor caught her attention. Not pity, but curiosity. He didn't seem like someone looking for a handout. There was a quiet dignity in the way he stood, as though he belonged there just as much as anyone else. Before the hostess could dismiss him entirely, Maya stepped forward. I can seat him, she said, her voice clear and unwavering. The room went silent. Patrons paused mid-bite to watch the unfolding drama. The hostess hesitated, glancing toward the manager, who gave a small, disapproving shake of his head. But Maya didn't back down. We have open tables, she added, her tone firm. The hostess sighed, clearly uncomfortable, but stepped aside as Maya took the lead. This way, sir, she said warmly, gesturing for LeBron to follow her. She led him to a small table near the kitchen doors. It wasn't the prime seating area, but it was a seat nonetheless. Maya placed a menu in front of him and smiled. Take your time, she said, her tone genuine despite the murmurs and stares from other staff and diners. Thank you, LeBron said, his voice sincere. As Maya walked away, LeBron opened the menu, pretending to read while his eyes scanned the room. The whispers had already started. It didn't take long for the tension in the room to grow palpable. LeBron, usually the center of admiration and cheers, now found himself the subject of disdain. At a nearby table, a man in a tailored suit leaned toward his companion. What's management thinking, letting someone like that in here? He muttered, his voice low but loud enough for LeBron to catch. A family seated by the window exchanged glances. The father whispered something to his teenage son, who smirked and shook his head. The staff wasn't much better. One server passed by his table, muttering, "What a waste of space," as another chuckled quietly behind the bar. LeBron sat silently, observing. Every glance, every murmur, every action painted a vivid picture of how appearances dictated behavior. But amidst the judgment and discomfort, Maya stood out. She moved gracefully between tables, attending to her other guests with the same care she had shown him. At one point, an older woman waved Maya over and whispered harshly, "Why are you wasting time on him? People like that shouldn't even be allowed in here." Maya flushed, but her response was steady. "I believe everyone deserves respect, ma'am," she said firmly, before walking away without waiting for a reply. LeBron's respect for Maya grew with every passing moment. She was the kind of person he had hoped to find, someone who looked beyond the surface, beyond appearances, and saw the humanity in everyone. The tension in the room was a far cry from the cheers and applause LeBron was used to, but as he sat there, his mission became clearer. This wasn't just about exposing biases, it was about finding those rare individuals who truly embodied kindness. He took a deep breath and leaned back in his chair. The game wasn't over yet. It was only halftime, and the best was still to come. As LeBron sipped the glass of water Maya had brought him, he let his gaze sweep across the room. Each glance, each whisper, and each sideways look was another piece of the puzzle he was trying to solve. The high-end restaurant, with its polished floors and sparkling chandeliers, had become a court, not of basketball, but of humanity. He noticed a young couple seated near the center of the room. The woman leaned in, whispering to her partner. "Do you think he's going to ask someone for money?" she asked, her voice tinged with discomfort. Her partner shrugged but kept glancing in LeBron's direction, his expression a mix of curiosity and unease. At another table, a well-dressed man caught LeBron's eye and quickly looked away, muttering something to his companion. LeBron caught the words out of place. He noted it mentally, another tally in the growing list of judgments. The staff wasn't much different. The manager, who had been watching from the bar, made no effort to hide his disapproval. His sharp glances in LeBron's direction spoke volumes. Even some of the other servers avoided passing too close to his table, as if proximity alone might tarnish their reputation. LeBron remained calm. He had been in high-pressure situations his entire career, Game 7s, buzzer beaters, championship moments, but none of them had prepared him for the weight of silent judgment. This wasn't about winning or losing. It was about understanding. Maya, however, was a beacon of light in the midst of all the negativity. As she moved between tables, her demeanor remained calm and professional. She didn't rush past him or avoid eye contact like the others. Instead, she returned periodically to check on him, her kindness unwavering. "Is everything okay?" she asked softly as she refilled his water. "Yes," LeBron replied, his voice warm. "Thank you for your kindness." Maya gave him a small smile. "It's my job," she said modestly, but LeBron could see that it went beyond that. She wasn't just doing her job, she was standing up for what was right, even when it wasn't easy. As Maya walked away, LeBron's thoughts raced. This experiment wasn't just about witnessing unkindness. It was about highlighting those who rose above it. In Maya, he saw the potential for something greater, a moment that could ripple far beyond this one night. When LeBron finished his modest meal, a simple salad and water, he stood slowly, the chair scraping against the floor. The sound drew the attention of the room, and a hush fell over the diners. His towering frame, even hunched slightly, commanded attention. Every eye was on him now. He stepped toward the center of the room, his movements deliberate, his face calm but firm. The manager was the first to approach, his posture stiff, his voice clipped. "Sir, if you're finished, I'll have to ask you to leave." LeBron raised a hand, his calm gesture silencing the man mid-sentence. "I'll leave shortly," he said, his voice steady but commanding. "But before I go, I need to say something." The room was utterly silent now, the tension so thick it could be cut with a knife. Slowly, LeBron reached up and removed the scruffy wig that had concealed his identity. Gasps rippled through the room as he stood there, his true face revealed. The whispers started immediately, a mixture of shock and disbelief. "It's LeBron James," someone murmured, their voice trembling. "Yes, it's me," LeBron said, his voice resonating throughout the room. "And tonight, I came here not as the man you know, but as someone you wouldn't look at twice. I wanted to see how people treat someone who seems to have nothing." He paused, letting his words sink in. "What I saw tonight was disappointing. Judgment, disdain, whispers. People too quick to assume and too slow to show kindness." He turned to Maya, who stood frozen near the kitchen doors, her tray in hand. "But one person stood out," LeBron continued, his voice softening. "One person treated me with dignity and respect. Maya." Maya's face flushed as she slowly set down her tray and stepped forward. "You didn't know who I was," LeBron said, "but you chose to see me as a person, not an appearance. That's what real character looks like." Reaching into his pocket, LeBron pulled out a white envelope and handed it to her. "This is for you," he said. Maya's hands trembled as she opened it. Inside was a handwritten note and a check for $100,000. Her eyes widened as she read the note aloud. "For your dreams. Kindness is the greatest slam dunk." Tears streamed down her face as the room erupted into murmurs. Some diners clapped hesitantly, their earlier judgment now replaced with guilt and admiration. Others sat in silence, processing the powerful moment. LeBron turned back to the room. "To those of you who judged me tonight, let this be a lesson. Appearances are deceiving. The way you treat others reveals who you really are." He turned to Maya one last time, his expression warm. "Never lose that kindness. It's rare, and it's powerful." With that, LeBron walked toward the door, his head held high. The door closed softly behind him, leaving the restaurant filled with a mix of shame, awe, and a newfound sense of introspection. The story of the night would go viral, sparking debates about societal judgment, kindness, and humanity. But for Maya, it was more than a moment of fame. It was the start of a journey, one fueled by kindness and a newfound belief that small actions could create big changes. And for LeBron, it was a reminder that the greatest victories aren't won on the court, they're won in the heart. As the door closed behind LeBron James, the restaurant remained eerily silent. The diners, staff, and even the once confident manager stood frozen, their minds replaying the night's events. The echoes of LeBron's words lingered. "The way you treat others reveals who you really are." Maya stood in the center of it all, the envelope still clutched in her trembling hands. Her co-workers, who had either whispered or avoided LeBron earlier, now regarded her with newfound respect. Some offered awkward smiles, others looked away, too ashamed to meet her gaze. "I don't know what to say," Maya finally stammered, her voice breaking. She opened the note again, rereading the line. "Kindness is the greatest slam dunk." Tears filled her eyes, but this time they weren't just tears of gratitude, they were tears of validation. She had simply done what she believed was right, and it had changed everything. The manager approached her, his once stern demeanor softened. "Maya," he began, his voice quieter than usual, "you showed us all what real hospitality looks like. I think we all have a lot to learn from you." Maya gave a polite nod but said nothing. She wasn't seeking approval from him or anyone else. What mattered most was the impact of her actions, and the validation from someone like LeBron James was more than she could have imagined. The following morning, the story of LeBron James's undercover experiment exploded across the internet. News outlets picked up the story, social media lit up with debates, and the hashtag number kindness. His king began trending worldwide. Clips of the reveal, secretly captured by diners, went viral within hours, and the public reaction was swift. "LeBron James just proved what humanity really looks like," one user tweeted. "Shout out to Maya at the Ivy Crest, she's the real MVP," wrote another. Criticism wasn't absent. Many slammed the patrons and staff who had treated LeBron poorly. "This is why people lose faith in kindness," one comment read. "We judge too quickly and care too little." The Ivy Crest itself faced scrutiny, with many calling for reforms in how they trained their staff. In response, the restaurant's management released a public statement. "Last night was a wake-up call. We are implementing immediate changes to ensure every guest is treated with the respect and dignity they deserve, regardless of appearance." For Maya, the attention was overwhelming. Reporters reached out for interviews, and her face was splashed across headlines. "The server who won LeBron's heart." While grateful, Maya chose her words carefully in each interview. "It wasn't about who he was," she explained. "It was about who I wanted to be. Everyone deserves kindness, no matter what they look like or where they come from." The $100,000 check was a life-changing gift. Maya used it to pay off her debts and enroll in culinary school, something she had dreamed of for years but never thought possible. With the remainder, she began laying the groundwork for her own restaurant, one that would embody the principles of inclusivity and respect that she had demonstrated that night. Months after the experiment, LeBron James sat down for an interview with a major network. When asked about that night, he leaned forward, his expression thoughtful. "Kindness isn't a highlight reel moment," he said. "It's not flashy or loud. It's in the quiet actions, the things you do when nobody's watching, or when you think the person on the other end has nothing to offer you. Maya showed that, and it's something I'll never forget." When pressed about what he hoped to achieve, LeBron paused before replying. I wanted to remind people that what makes us human isn't our success, our wealth, or our status. It's how we treat each other when there's no scoreboard keeping track. The story of LeBron's undercover experiment didn't just fade into the background. It became a lasting reminder for those who witnessed it and the millions who read about it. The Ivy Crest underwent significant changes, retraining staff and even launching initiatives to serve the less fortunate in their community. For Maya, her life became a testament to the power of kindness. Her story inspired countless others, and when she opened her own restaurant 2 years later, she named it the Open Court, a place where everyone was welcome, regardless of how they looked or what they had. And for the rest of the world, the lesson remained clear. Appearances may deceive, but kindness never lies. LeBron's experiment proved that in a world obsessed with status and success, the greatest victories happen when we choose empathy over judgment. Because in the end, as LeBron himself had said, kindness is always the greatest slam dunk. LeBron James's undercover experiment at the Ivy Crest was more than just a social test. It was a powerful reminder of the humanity we often overlook in our daily lives. His journey revealed the stark contrast between judgment and kindness, challenging societal norms that too often place appearances over compassion. Maya's small but profound act of empathy not only changed her life but also became a beacon of hope and a lesson for everyone who witnessed or heard about the story. The experiment underscored a universal truth. It's not wealth, fame, or outward success that defines us. It's the way we treat others when there's nothing to gain in return. LeBron's message was clear. Empathy and kindness are the real indicators of character, and they hold the power to transform lives.